I learned a hard lesson during the 5th grade that will stay with me forever. We were only 10 years old. You could say we were too young to know any better, but there's no excuse. Not for this. The 5th grade was not a great year for me. I had no friends and remember feeling very much alone. My brother was in another class, so I couldn't talk to him. I was always singled out of everything. I wasn't a shy person. Well, maybe a little. I guess I just liked to focus on my education and I preferred to work independently. This made it hard to make any friends with my peers. What made it even harder was how toxic I felt many of them were. Thankfully, I enjoyed learning, and that's all that really mattered to me at the time. Every day, I just kept my head down and got on with my work as normal, until one day, there was an interruption in the normal routine. An unfamiliar woman walked into our classroom with this kid trailing behind her head down. Our teacher smiled and called for our attention. "Class, we have a new student who will be joining you. Everyone, please meet your newest classmate, Brianna." The whole class turned to see this girl timidly walk into view. The woman bent down and whispered some words to the girl before smiling and letting go of her hand, walking out of the classroom behind her. The class looked over our new classmate. She was light-skinned with a brown bun fixed on her head and wide brown eyes. She looked like a nice girl, but she was clearly shy. "Okay, class, remember, we lift each other up, we don't tear down, so let's be sure to make Brianna feel welcome here." Although the class murmured yes, they lied. What laid ahead for Brianna was anything but welcoming. The first few weeks were fine. Brianna was so quiet, it was easy to forget she was in the classroom at all. She soon took my spot as the quietest person in the class. The times she did talk, she whispered so quietly, you had to lean in to catch it. She was always the first person to break eye contact should her eyes meet yours. Everyone thought something was wrong with her, but I didn't. I felt like I could identify with Brianna, not just because of shyness. I like to think that the quiet ones are usually the brightest, that when you take the time to think, you grow wise and intelligent beyond your years, but not everyone felt the same as me. I don't know when or why exactly it happened, but my classmates got sick of her silence. They started messing with her. Soon, the rumors began to spread. One thing to note about Brianna, she was a really pretty girl, but her clothes and shoes often had stains or holes in them. They started calling her poor and dirty. They said that she smelled and that she hadn't showered in months. When they told her to her face she was an orphan and that no one loved her, she finally reacted, but with tears. This went on for about another month until that day came that I will never forget. It was the end of recess. The class was lined up on the basketball court waiting to go inside. I was waiting in the back of the line just behind Brianna. Though I never stuck up for her directly, I always made sure to give her a little smile. I sometimes said hi to her, and I could tell it made her day because she always said hi back and smiled. That day at recess, in the back of the line, I smiled and said hi. She grinned and it made me so happy, but the happiness on our faces disappeared when a group of boys came over from the front of the line. "What's up, Stink? Still got those raggedy clothes I see, huh?" He rubbed Brianna's shirt and sniffed his hand. He made an exaggerated disgust face and let the other boys smell. They gagged and pretended to barf. Brianna's face started to go red, her big brown eyes welling up. I watched it in horror. I wanted to say something, but I was frozen. The boys said more mean things to her, talking about her lice in her hair, dirt in her clothes, holes in her shoes. It was awful. The taunting was relentless. Her lip was quivering and her eyes shimmered. Finally, her bullies ended with a final sentence. "The world could do without your stink." Something inside me clicked. like a flashlight. I had had enough. I stepped in front of Brianna and pointed at the boys. What's wrong with you guys? She doesn't stink. She honestly doesn't. Why are you lying? I was shaking with anger. All that frustration that had been boiling up inside me started to burst out. Boy, did it feel good. The boys stood there, stunned that someone had finally stood up to them. They took a step back and started to walk away. One of them looked at me and chuckled airily. Whatever. It was just a joke. I turned to Brianna. Tears were falling from her eyes. I remember exactly what I said to her. You don't stink, I said firmly. You're good. I gave her an encouraging smile and she looked at me with gratitude, but also sadness. That look has stayed with me ever since. Thanks, she whispered. The line started moving and the class walked back to our room. When I turned around, Brianna was nowhere to be seen. Where had she gone? I didn't see her the rest of the day, or the next day, or the next. We didn't see her at school for a whole 2 weeks. I was worried. Was she sick? Did she move? I wanted to ask someone about her, but I didn't have to. One day the teacher got the class's attention. She looked very upset. Class? She started slowly, but with force. The whole class froze. We knew something bad was coming. It has come to my attention that your classmate Brianna had been badly bullied by this very class. Brianna, a sweet girl who only just joined us, who did not have a bad word to say to anybody, instead of lifting her up, you saw weakness and you tore her down, calling her names and even telling her the earth would be a better place without her. She paused and looked down at the floor. As some of you may know, Brianna hasn't been in school for 2 weeks now. Her parents have just informed me that Brianna tried to take her own life. The class gasped in unison. There was a long pause. She is doing better now, but I am shocked and very, very disappointed in you all. How dare you treat another human being that way? You should be ashamed of yourselves. We all sat in silence, trying to understand what had happened. I have decided to punish this class. There will be no recess for a week, extra homework and lessons, and no iPad card. Oh, what? Some students groaned. You don't get to groan, she yelled. We all held our breath. Brianna is hurting and all you can do is think of yourself? I will be contacting all of your parents to let them know what you've done. Some of you, however, have been exempt from punishment. Brianna gave a list of 3 names who didn't do anything to her. Those 3 people will go to recess as soon as the bell rings. The bell rang and I was one of the 3 people who went to recess. I was happy Brianna knew I never wanted to hurt her, but I was still ashamed. I could have done more. I should have done more. Brianna came to class a day later looking tired and sad. She was not going to be in our class anymore. She was transferring. She just came so the whole class could apologize, including myself. Our eyes met, only this time she didn't look away so fast. She looked at me and gifted me a smile. I gave an apologetic smile back. In middle school, I have seen Brianna roam the halls. She's looking much better now. She has friends and she smiles much more than she did back then. She says hi to me in the halls and I say hi back. I'm glad she hasn't forgotten about me, because I haven't forgotten her. I don't think I ever will. She taught me that being a bystander is just as bad as being a bully sometimes. I take bullying seriously now, knowing the impact it can have on a person's life. No human being deserves to be treated that way. I'm glad she taught me that. Thank you, Brianna. And I'm sorry.